we in this special situation. Now, what did I think during that time? You know, there are loads of people walking around Washington saying Iraq could be the pillar of our regional stability for us in the area. We should be allies with Iraq, which we never were. I looked at Iraq and I saw Saddam Hussein and what he was doing and what he had done, and I was perfectly appalled. I mean, how are you going to put up with that? So, I mean, that was my position on that. I was aghast at the idea that we would have Saddam Hussein as an ally. Now, on the question of on the question of colonialism, how were the great empires, colonial empires of the world established? I submit to you that they were not established by tradesmen going in and saying, "Would you like to buy some of my silk?" You know, they were fundamentally they were established with gunboats and with armies, and this is not the way multinational corporations. Fundamentally, the way multinational corporations establish themselves. This world will be a richer world when we are engaged in free trade as much as we can across international borders. When restrictions do not apply on the ability of somebody to invest in a foreign country and for the right concomitant with that of the people in that place to organize labor unions and negotiate contracts. The fact of the matter is that capitalism makes countries richer. Capitalism makes countries richer. I give you the example, before you all laugh and guffaw, I give you the example of South Korea. I give you another example of Taiwan. I give you another example of Thailand. All countries which 30 years ago were desperately poor, where in the case of South Korea, people were starving to death in 1956, and the dirty old capitalists and the dirty old multinationals and the savings and energy and investment of the people of the region and the hard work of the people of the region have led those countries into second world status. Now show me a place where the capitalist system does not prevail, where you can have that kind of an advancement in the standard of living of the people who live there. Nowhere in Africa, God knows nowhere in Eastern Europe, God knows not in the Soviet Union, not in China, all those places where the wonderful socialist system, where by God we were going to have equal conditions for absolutely everybody at the point of a gun, not one of those places has ever produced a higher standard of living across the board for the people who live there than has happened in small Asian capitalist country after small Asian capitalist country. They are not perfect, right? They just had another military coup in Thailand. South Korea is not a democracy, but it's heading in that direction. Taiwan is a hell of a lot more democratic than China is. Now, if you believe in human rights, and you believe in the advancement, the physical and moral advancement of the people who live in these various countries, you're far more likely to have it with a democratic capitalist system than you are with socialism at the point of a gun.
Well, I think I was asked to comment only on the matter of the war without conscience, and I think I've said all I want to say. About that. Oh, but well, never mind. I had a codicil on the political economy of growth, but I guess it can wait.
Yeah, let's hear it.
But for some reason, we don't find the Kondrackes of the world criticizing the U.S. involvement in that torture and murder.
Well, we've had
the CIA was involved very directly.
With respect, we've had this question.
And I wonder why you don't talk about El Salvador, and then I wonder when, leading up to Mr. Kondracke's talk about democracy, which is really my question. And that is, you call it a democracy, but you get a bunch of Native Americans put together a movement to try and get something decent for themselves, and the FBI slaughters them, kills them, and murders them, gets them locked up. You get young black people who are militantly against the genocide performed against the African American people, and the FBI, with its COINTELPRO, breaks them up, kills them in their beds, falsifies evidence, and puts them in prison. Now, this has been going on for a long time. It started, that's most noticeable for us, with the Palmer raids. And my question, I guess, to you is, why the double standard from people like Kondracke? Why can't they look at what is paid for with their money and deal with it? Because if you have dissidents and you kill it, you don't have democracy. You have fascism by COINTELPRO. And you, sir, are amongst those who glorify it. So I can only look at you as a fascist mouthpiece.
Oh, give me a break. Look, when Fred Hampton got killed in Chicago, I mean, that's the case I know best of all those cases, because I covered it. It was a disgrace, and every fair-minded person, not in the old Daley regime, understood that it was a case of murder, and that it was deplorable. Now, because such things happen in the United States of America, does that mean that we live in a fascist country? I mean, does the word fascist have any meaning to you? I mean, you are standing here in a room on a college campus and saying what you damn well please. Nobody's going to hustle you out the door and shoot you in the alley. There are countries all over this world where you wouldn't last 10 minutes out the door, and Saddam Hussein ran one of those regimes. Now, are some of those regimes, has the United States in the past supported regimes like that? You bet your dollar it has. I mean, Iran under the Shah was such a case. The problem of El Salvador, which has come up time and time again, is such a case under certain. It is such a case, but it is a very difficult situation because the opposition in El Salvador is just as brutal as the government of El Salvador. And in fact, it is. I'm sorry, it is. The elected government that now exists in El Salvador is the best that the Arena Party can produce, and it was elected. It was elected, and it's what I'm saying is that your country does not go out looking for Democrats to kill. Your country does not kill Democrats at home because they're Democrats. People do get killed. Injustices happen. The United States foreign policy is not always right. It is sometimes disastrously wrong. But we do live in a world in which the question compared to what still applies. And compared to the despots of this world, you live in the best country there is on the face of the earth.
Mr. Hitchens?
Well, I like to think I always choose my words with care, but I'll choose them with extra care on this occasion because I do not want this evening to end on a note of consensus, however tentative, with Morton Kondracke. For that reason, I slightly resent your last question, sir, in two respects. One, I think you'll agree on reflection that the greater part of it had in fact been asked before and more than once. Second, I think that if fascism did come to America, you would have to think of a new word to call it, in that you might find you'd exploded the main word prematurely. And this is a quarrel I've had with other people on the left in the past. What would you say if it really happened, if you think it's happened now? And that's a test of seriousness, because anyone who ever has had to deal with a fascist regime, even glancingly, will know how to name its parts and recognize its fangs and teeth. Now, on this question of the benevolent, neutral, sometimes admittedly wayward, sometimes opportunist, but generally benign superpower, which is Morton's world picture of the United States, I don't think I caricature his position very much. Yes, it's wrong. Yes, it has flaws. Yes, we have a long way to go. Generally speaking, though, it is not self-interest or rapacity that drives it. Generally speaking, it is on the side of the